Okay, this is step 2, and in step 2 we're going to add a texture technique, or you're going to cover a section of the paper with one of the with one of the listed techniques that you have on your paper. And you'll use watercolor, except if you're using a stamp. And I think this is why we did try these different things before this, different techniques, and we put them in your sketchbook so you can refer to them and remember which ones worked for you best and which ones didn't. You could go in there with bubbles, or you can go in with a stencil, and with a little makeup sponge, and add patterns just here and there, not all over, just a little area here and there. You can use a saran wrap. You can put watercolor on it and stamp it down, but it look a lot like this. Or you can put some more color down and lay this down and let it dry. You can print. You can add gauze and lay it down and then paint on top of it. You can do bubble wrap and print with it. But I'm going to do the stamp bit because I thought it would be fun, and I'm going to give Miss King a little bit of pearlized paint, which kind of gives it a little translucent. So the thing is, with acrylic paint, it is plastic, and when plastic dries, it resists water, and watercolor has water in it, so it will kind of resist the watercolor a little bit, and you'll see your pattern a little bit better as you go on. Now, what kind of patterns or stamps can you make? You can make your own. These are just with little pieces of foam, that foam sheet that the kids use that you get down at Hobby Lobby, and you can cut it up real easy. And that's what these are made out of. And they're just put on a piece of cardboard. Now, this one's just on another piece of foam. So it's pliable, and which is kind of nice because then you can put it on different things. And here is another one where I just took the scraps out of all the stamps that I made and just added them to this backing, which happens to be just a piece of mat board, but I gessoed over it to seal it, so if it gets wet, it's not going to get into the cardboard. And the same thing with this. And again, this I just cut out a circle, then I incised it, gave it a little bit of incisions so that those will show up when it prints as just empty areas. So I'm going to try this though with this one. I think I'm going to do it with this one. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of acrylic paint. And I'm going to use white. Okay, white will probably just kind of disappear on the white areas. Now, where am I going to put it? I could put some down here. I don't want to go like this. I want to get a variety. Now, if I wanted to, I could go in and put a piece of paper someplace and then stamp over it so I'd have a different shape. So, there's a lot of variety of ways, and a lot of times when you stamp, everything doesn't stamp right. So you have little areas that aren't stamped, and that's good. Now, how are you going to get your paint on here? There are several ways. You can go in and put your paint on a piece of paper and spread it around, and then just stamp it on there, and then go around, stamp it there. Or if you have a brush, do not use your watercolor brushes with acrylic. It does tend to ruin them, especially if you've bought a brush just for watercolor. Now, what I have here is I've got some water, but the water has a couple of drops of glycerin in it. And glycerin is something that keeps things wet a little bit longer. And so when I do that and I mix it with the acrylic, it will keep it a little bit wetter for a little bit longer, because I've got this acrylic here on a piece of paper that I can mix it on. But the problem is the paper will absorb all the water. So you know what? I'd probably be better just taking a piece of plastic or if I had a plate or anything like that, something that's non-absorbent. And I don't need a lot of acrylic. I just want a little bit. And you just put a little bit down. In fact, that's almost too much. That is too much. And then just fill your brush with it. And of course, on this brush, I put some of that water with the glycerin in it. And then just go in and paint yours. And you don't have to paint them all perfect either. You know, you can just kind of go in and just maybe leave some of it. And then go in while it's still there and push down. Now, if your paper is free, sometimes is loose, then sometimes you can put the print or the stamp face up and then you put it down. Now, if you'll notice when I did that, see how it printed and it left these these little areas in it. So that's what will happen here, which is really interesting. It's not something bad. I mean, you know, everything works for you. Nothing is, you know, you take the good with the bad and the ugly with the, and sometimes the ugly turns out to be the prettiest part of what you've done. Okay, I want to do it here. Now I'm going to put my little gift, my Beltone gift card right there. And my next print, and that didn't come out real sharp. If I wanted to, I could go in here and even just fill in some of those squares if I wanted to, just to make them a little bit more interesting. I mean, you know, it's not like it's rocket science here. It's just having fun. But you don't want to do too much of one thing in all areas, but you want to do it a little bit here and a little bit there. Now, I'm printing over the credit card or anything, a piece of paper or whatever, just to protect the watercolor paper. And then I'm going to pull it up, pull this out. Now, if you'll notice, this part here got really thick. I don't really want thick. So, that's okay. I'll just go in here and I just pull it off. And if I have a paper towel, which I have right here, I can go in, I can wipe off the extra acrylic and just go in here and smooth that down. And since I've got something like that over there, I think I'll put one over here too. I'm just going to put a square right there. Oh, I might put a couple of squares here and there too. Just like I said, there's nothing that says you have to, everything has to be perfect. Sometimes the most imperfect becomes the best part of your piece. Okay, now before the paint dries on your brush, you must go and wash it off. And when you wash it off with your water, but then when you go in, put soap in the palm of your hand, and then just go like this with the soap and the brush. That gets it up there in the base of the, because this acrylic gets up in there. And you want to loosen it and get it out. And so you're just going to go like this, trying to get that soap up in there. And then you get some suds going. And then you go in and you be at the sink and wash it out again. With this, I would go ahead and take a paper towel and squeeze it. Never, ever wring your brushes like that. If you do, what you're doing is you're pushing this hair against this metal. And what's going to happen to that hair? It's going to break. It's going to be cut off. And then you're going to have some really bad-looking brushes. You can just shape this back into its shape, lay it down, let it dry. Now, I have that acrylic on here, or if you use something else, if you use the bubbles or any of that, you just let it dry, completely dry. That's the end of step 2.